We're doing a series called Faith in the Force, and we're doing segues from Star Wars, and they're basically things that I want to talk about that we can tie into a Star Wars idea or concept. And today's is Han Solo No More, which is not near as cute as I thought it was in my head the first time that I thought it. But in what you find in Star Wars, you've got the light side and the dark side, and let me show you what we love about Star Wars. Really. Finally, what it comes down to is the reason people loved Star Wars is summed up right there. It's a character-driven drama with a great plot behind it. But it's because you fall in love with the characters. That's why people loved Star Wars from the beginning, is because you develop an attachment to these guys. And what we find in the world of Star Wars is you've got the light side and the dark side, and really, ultimately, when it comes to friendship, the light side is packed full of them. The light side is people helping people. And even in this situation, Luke Skywalker apparently is one of the strongest users of the Force ever, and he has to have friends to bail him out to do what he was designed to do or what he has the capability of doing. If it weren't for his friends, he couldn't fulfill his destiny. It's all about friendship from beginning to end. And eventually Han Solo is frozen in carbonite, and Luke and his buddies go save Han Solo. And then Han Solo gets the shields down in the second Death Star so that they can blow up the thing. And it's a matter of friends helping friends in a mission, really. And what you find on the dark side is everybody using everybody else. What you find on the dark side is people climbing over people or killing people that don't get the job done. There's no friendship on the dark side. And so on the dark side, everybody is isolated. Everybody is alone. And on the light side, people are in community. And I know that's just a really lame way to talk about community, but that's what I'm going to do today. Because from beginning to end, the Christian message is the message of friendship. Jesus, before he was crucified, sat down with his best friends for a big meal. They call it the Last Supper. You guys have seen the paintings. And at the Last Supper, he gives this prayer and he gives a mini sermon. And this is part of his prayer. Part of his sermon. He says, "No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not understand what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, because everything I have learned from my Father I have made known to you." And it'd be very simple for God. That Bristol and the team today did a song where it says, "No other God can be called friend." That's true. There's no other major religion where the God of that religion is close and intimate and personal. They're distant, and they might command obedience. They might command that you do the right things, but in none of them do they say, "I want to come in and eat with you. I want to come in and share a meal with you." Christianity is separate from other religions in that aspect. Jesus could have said, "I'm the boss, you guys are the followers, go do the job." He didn't say that. He said, "I'm sharing with you the heart of the Father because I'm your friend." And it's a completely different perspective. He also says in that same time period, he says, he stands up and he prays for his people. He prays for his friends. He says, "My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one. Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know you sent me." He says, "I pray that we will all be in a community of loving friendship where I'm in you and you're in me and we're all deeply connected. And people will know the Father through that." We talked about last week how Jesus said there's one way that people will know. They will know because of your love one for another. And, our mission here at Daylight Church, so I was reading a church growth thing this week that talked about, can people say your mission? It's very simple. We help people become followers of Jesus. That's what we want to do. We believe Jesus is the light of the world. We believe he's the perfect example for what a person ought to look like. If you're going to base your life on somebody, that Jesus is the example. And so we want to be a community tied together in friendship that loves him, that brings people to him. There was they called him a cleric. I don't know if that was an official position in the church or not. But this guy, John Donne, was a cleric in the 16th century. And he developed what they think was probably typhus. He had a really terrible fever for quite some time and almost died. He was like on the edge of death for a very long time. And eventually he came out of it. They're not sure exactly what the disease is, but he was on death's door for quite some time. And he eventually snapped out of it. became healthy, and he claims that during that time of having a fever, he had all these revelations about God and all these visitations from God. Now, we don't know if that was like an ancient day acid trip or whether that was the real deal. We don't know if it's because his brain was fried, or we don't know. But I'll tell you, he wrote a book called Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions. And one of the poems expressed in that, you guys have heard portions of and never knew it. You never knew it came from John Donne. And I'm going to share that poem with you. This is just a portion of the poem. But he says, "No man is an island." That's where that came from. It's from this dude that fried his brain. It says, "No man is an island, entirely of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is of the less. As well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never sin to know for whom the bells toll." It should say the bell tolls. "It tolls for thee." Anybody ever heard that last line? We think Ernest Hemingway came up with that because of his book, For Whom the Bell Tolls. He stole that from John Donne. And what John is saying in this point, he says we're all deeply connected. He says when one man dies, whether it's in Afghanistan or in Mexico, it affects all of humanity, that all humanity is interwoven, that we affect one another and that we play a part in one another's lives. And he says, so when one man dies, don't ask who died, because we all died. We all died a little bit when one dies. When one suffers, we all suffer a little bit. And that's how God wanted the world to look. And so I was just thinking about points when it comes to the segue of a community of friendships. And I want to stress that no man is an island. And so that's how I found out about John Donne. I thought, I want to talk about No Man is an Island. I wonder where that came from. And I found out, John Donne, brain fried. Hey, it worked out. And here we are. But it's very simple as a human being to isolate yourself. It's very simple to hide. And you can hide in a crowd pretty easily. And there's a lot of people in here that when I say that, you think, yeah, that's me. You know what? I'm going to say it. In a sense, it's me. I think all of us have walls up to keep people just far enough away. And I'm convinced that that's not God's desire for our life, that He wants our lives to be intimately woven with the people around us, intimately involved with the people around us. I learned this lesson just recently, and I'm a little embarrassed. I've been reading about pastors and how they ought to be transparent, and I think if you guys have been around at all, I embarrass myself up here all the time. You guys probably know me as the pastor that's tempted by porn and sick all the time and doesn't know how to love people, and you'd be accurate in that. And this is a neti pot, and some of you know what a neti pot is and some of you don't. This is a beautiful ceramic neti pot. They're not actually that lovely. They're not pieces of art. They're pieces of plastic that allow you to clean snot out of your head. And I've used a neti pot for years, and I fill it with some saline solution and water, distilled water, and a product called Alkalol, and then a little bit of colloidal silver, and tilt it sideways, and it cleans out all the gunk. And I've used one for years because I've dealt with sinus infections for years. I don't know if it's allergies, immune system related, I don't know what it is. But as of late, and I've tried to hide this from you guys, which is pretty uncool really. Some of you know that I've been feeling kind of cruddy. But for about the last 3 months, I've felt awful. Every single time I've been in front of you guys for the last 3 months, I have wished I could be anywhere else but here. I just felt terrible. And I was becoming almost depressed about it because I've been sick for years and years and years. I've had multiple sinus surgeries, and it's just been lousy. And this last stint has been the worst of it. And to the point where I'm thinking, can I even pastor a church? I mean, can I do this to myself every week, having to prepare and having to present while feeling like total crap the whole time? And so I'm talking to one of my mentors, one of my advisors, and I said, Chad, I laid the whole thing out. I said, man, I'm almost feeling depressed about this because I just don't feel good, and it's really hard to be motivated when you don't feel good. And the first thing that came out of his mouth, because I had told him it's been months, it's been 2 or 3 months, he said, HL, you should have told me this a long time ago. That was his first comment. He didn't say, hey, buck up, pal, it's going to be fine. He kind of corrected me for being an island. He corrected me for holding that in and keeping it to myself and not wanting to be transparent. And I don't want to stand up in front of you guys and say, hey, I'm sick, guys. You feel sorry for me. Pray for me. Because I believe God's a healer. And as a pastor, I'm supposed to teach that God's a healer. And so what kind of example can I be if I stand up here going, God's a healer, guys. You're just going to have to trust me on this, right? And so I hid it. I hid it from him. I don't even talk to my wife about it too much because I don't want to always be around the house saying, oh, I feel cruddy. So I just buck up and keep going and keep going. Well, he advised me, he prayed for me, and I called up another buddy of mine that's a nutritionist, and I said, Brandon, I said, I've been feeling cruddy for about 3 months now, and it's just getting worse, and I don't know what to do. And he had told me 2 years ago that if I ever needed anything, if he could help me in any way, he wouldn't charge me, he would advise me, he would take care of me. But my pride forbid me from calling him. Because the guy gets, he's probably $100 an hour for his help for most people. And so I had a real hesitation to call him, but I finally called him up and said, man, I need your help. And the short of it is, he's put me on this nutrition protocol. Some of you know I'm on it because you go out to eat with me and I can have like a head of lettuce. It's delicious. And but the short of it is, I feel better today than I've felt in months. I feel pretty dang good today. And I felt pretty decent last week. But for 3 months before that, I didn't. And a lot of it came down to me letting someone else be who God designed them to be by being transparent with them, by being open to them. I went to him and said, do what God designed you to do, help me. And a lot of us don't want to ask for help. A lot of us, and I'm one of them, obviously I'm one of them, but we need each other. Scripture teaches that if you take one piece of string and you pull on it, it's going to break. But if you braid pieces of string together, they hold. And it makes it very clear that we need each other. You need people, and it's okay that you need people. I found this quote this week that I just loved. It said, you were created to need others like you were created to need air or water. There's nothing shameful or embarrassing about it. And others were created to need you. They need your gifts, talents, and influence. You need people, people need you, and ultimately people are the mission. That is the whole goal of life. And if you're not tied in with people, it means you're missing the whole goal of life. Not just a part of it, you're missing everything if you're not connected to people. I try to study the Bible pretty diligently. I try to prepare for these sermons. And I was thinking this week, because I was going through a chain reference in my Bible. And, if you know what a chain reference is, it means you read one verse and then they'll have a list of verses that kind of connect to the same concept, and it'll send you to another passage in the Bible. And then that'll have a chain reference that'll send you to another passage of the Bible. And by following a chain reference, you can get kind of a general biblical overview of a topic. So if you wanted to study sin or peace or money, all you need is a chain reference Bible. You just find any verse about money and boom, 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 it'll fly you through the whole Bible saying this is what the Bible says. And I realized that even when I prepare sermons, how much I rely on what other people have done. How much work I rely on that other people had gifts and talents and interests. And so when I stand up here and I can say, here's 8 passages that are on Judgment Day or 8 passages on healing, it's not because I've put in 15,000 hours poring over the Bible to try to find this stuff. It's because over time, different people have put in 15,000 hours where the Bible is concerned. And they found out that this verse links to this verse, links to this verse. And somebody originally took these scrolls that Isaiah wrote and made a bunch of copies of them. And then somebody took a whole bunch of scrolls that Nehemiah had written and they put them in the same book. They put them in the same codex. And then somebody took that codex that was originally written in Hebrew, American Greek, and they translated it into different languages so that we could read it. There have been hundreds of thousands, if not millions of man-hours, so that when I say, hey guys, open your Bibles to Romans 8, you can either crack it open or you can pull out your phone and type it in. And when you type it in, you're relying on hundreds, if not thousands of hours of computer code that somebody wrote so that you can do that. You see, we're not disconnected from one another. When the bell tolls for anyone, it affects all of us. And every single one of us plays this amazing part in this grand light side versus dark side, destroy the empire, bring the light vision that Jesus wants for the world, where people are connected to one another in a relationship of love and friendship. And every single one of us has skills and talents that are needed. Romans 12 teaches us we each have different gifts. According to the grace given each of us, if your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it's to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Every single one of us is wired differently. We are not the same. I was at a conference in Kansas City over the holidays. And It's called the One Thing Conference, and Andrew and some of the other team here have been students over there for a long time. Learned a lot from them. It was a fantastic conference. And some days the music portion, it would go for an hour and 45 minutes. And I am not that guy. I've never been that guy. I never will be that guy. I've come to grips with the fact that I'm not that guy, and I'll never be that guy. When it comes to music, what we do in here, and maybe that's why we've designed the church the way we have. Some of you hate it, some of you love it. It is what it is. Man, 15 minutes of it, man, I can just worship. I can connect with God. I'm focused on Him. Everything's fantastic. After about 20 minutes, I'm like, man, I'd really like to be doing something else. It's just me. It just is me. So at this conference, we're 45 minutes into a music session, and I'm like, all right, I'm trying to worship. I'm trying to focus, but I'm just antsy. And so I decided I'm going to go for a walk, and I did. And I've done this I've skipped church my whole life. I went for a walk, and I went to their bookstore, and I perused their books, and it was the most fantastic library of books that I've ever seen in my life, because they're super open to people from different perspectives. So it might be the topic of worship. There will be one person who's seriously analytic about how they, describe worship, and then there's somebody who's extremely emotional when they describe worship. And both those books were sitting side by side. And just all kinds of branches of theology. And I just went from table to table like a kid in a candy store. I don't know if it's fair to describe it, but I was worshiping. I was like, yeah, God. It was just like something special was happening, and I think I want this book and this book and this book, and I just know. And I'm going home and on my Kindle, I'm buying a bunch of books and reading and setting goals for my reading, and that's me. And it may not be you. And you might be offended because I say, well, about 20 minutes in, I'm ready to quit singing. I'm offended that you don't read more. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the fact is you were designed different than I was, and each of us worships differently. Each of us connects with God differently, and each of us serves differently. And when everybody gets a hold of who am I, and what was I designed to do, and who am I designed to be, and what position was I designed to fill, then the light side wins. Then the Jedis dominate. Good stuff happens. When you decide, I'm going to find out who I am, and I'm going to serve God in that capacity. I decided to just write down a bunch of people and positions that we need, and I'm going to close with this idea. I just thought of people that can serve that are completely different than me. Some of you are going to be embarrassed because your names are actually on that screen. We need nurses with really good bedside manner. Isn't that a Jesus-sounding thing? People that in the time of sickness will sit down next to somebody and hold their hand and clean their poop. I'm serious. It's a hard job, and people do it, and they can love God and serve God and bring the light of Jesus into the world as a nurse with good bedside manner. We need authors, and think of how many authors have touched your life. For some of you, not very many. Project engineers. We need project engineers like the guy that funded the founding of Daylight Church. If it wasn't for him, we would not exist. He works hard, he gives money, and he serves. Jacob Bach is a friend of mine that does street preaching in Madrid, Spain, and countless people have heard about Jesus because of him. How many bloggers have blessed your life? I got Matt Chalmers, and Matt Chalmers, his name ends with an S, so I had to put Matt Chalmerses. We need more Matt Chalmerses. I don't know if that works or not, but Matt is a guy that works. He works diligently, and he serves people. He's open enough to what God's doing to approach an acquaintance and say, hey, why don't you come to church with me? He's a guy that serves Jesus in his job. Nursing home coordinators. Alex McClellans is a Scottish apologist, a friend of mine. Peter, you and he might be related. We need substitute teachers. Annas. In the scriptures, there's this prophetess named Anna that lived in the temple she was 80 years old, and she had been there for, 30 years, and all she did every day was pray and worship. That's not me. I'm not an Anna. I'll never be an Anna. But you might be an Anna. You might be a person that's your life. You want to worship and pray and bring the kingdom of God to people, and that's your shtick. That's your thing. Priests, we need Lacey Latimer. Lacey's here in one of these rows. I don't want to embarrass her too much, but Lacey worked with a ministry called Sweaty Sheep. It's a bunch of athletes that get together and talk about Jesus and talk about God. And the guy leading it said, I'm out of here. Lacey, would you take over? She said, I don't think I'm qualified for that, but okay. And she did. And she's serving people. And we need more Lacey Latimers. We need politicians. Believe it or not, we really do. We need Termaine Shellman. Termaine right here works for Humana. And I went to eat lunch with him recently to the Humana building. And I'm not kidding. And he's always been like this. Every single person in the building knew him by name. I mean, every person. He could come up, he could shake their hand and say, hey, how's your kids? How's that soccer camp going? I don't remember the details, but I do remember just being like, Termaine, how does everybody know you? And it's because that's the kind of guy he is. I don't even like people. He loves people. And God has designed him to be that kind of person. We need thinkers and, I didn't know how to finish that. We need people who are deep thinkers and think philosophically and theologically. And then we need people that are just kind of simple. We need people that are just kind of simple about loving people and they don't have to understand everything. And we need both. We need videographers, especially in here. We need moms and we need social workers and we need Kayla Dieterlens. I don't know if Kayla is here with us today, but Kayla had brain surgery recently and I visited her in the hospital and communicated with her and you never saw her without a smile on her face. She trusted Jesus through the whole thing. Her family trusted God through the whole thing. I've never met a Dieterlen I didn't like. These are good quality people that in the middle of something awful, brain surgery for their young child, they kept their heads held high. And they trusted God. We need Ellen Wheelers, who shows up now early to set up the nursery outside every single week. We need sons and daughters that love their parents. We need actors and internet gurus and prophets. And you might think, why didn't you put my name on that screen? Here's my final point, is you need to be on the screen. Now, a lot of you, I could have stood here all day and talked about different people. I'm looking around the room. I know there's all kinds of people that I could brag on that are serving God. Security guards are up there, and one of our security people, I approached him a couple weeks ago because somebody had a bad dream about something bad happening at the church. So I went up to the security guy. I'm not going to tell you who he is because you don't need to know where he is. But I went up to him. I said, hey, man, somebody had a really bad dream. Can you keep your eye open? Keep your eyes open a little bit more today. He said, and these are his words, he said, I take this very seriously. I've got this. And I was like, that's the right answer. Because what he said to me was, you didn't need to say that to me. That's what he said. That's not me. I'm like, hey, everybody, how you doing? And I wouldn't notice if somebody came in with strapped dynamite all over him. He's watching you, all right? Everybody's different. And thank God for the difference. And so my question to you is, where do you belong on this screen? Marcia Roberts emailed me this week and said, the podcast is messed up. For some reason, somebody else's podcast audio is appearing on our audio chain. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to get with Marcia. And I put my phone down. And I was actually getting in the shower at the time. Maybe that's too much information. But I got out and went back and checked my email. And she had sent me an email that says this. She says, I checked the RSS file against the W3C RSS editor. There was an error in the data as opposed to format. I thought, oh, okay, good. Now, I understand what the RSS file is because I designed that particular one, although I stole all the code from somebody else and copied and pasted. She knows what a W3C RSS editor is. I have no idea, but I know that when she says I fixed it, I just think, okay, good, she fixed it. What's your place to fix? What is your place to step in? Who has God designed you to be? And here's the big question. Are you? Are you taking the talents, abilities, and influence that God has given you and bringing people to the light of Jesus? Are you applying the gifts that He's given you in a way that honors Him? And I just pray that you'll find that place. We want to be a church that lets people find that place, lets people figure out who they are and what God has designed them to be.